The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. Our guest today is Julian Tucker. Julian is a ServiceNow Architect at Booz Allen Hamilton. Julian, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Julian, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us an overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been from where you started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as being one of the main ServiceNow architects at Booz Allen Hamilton?
I'm one of the lucky people who at a very, very young age knew exactly what they wanted to do. First time I ever touched Super Mario Brothers when I was like 3 or 4 years old, just the buttons, the software manipulating that was on the screen. I didn't really know what that was, but I knew that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. So all through childhood, I've been on this path towards being a software developer, even if I didn't really know what that meant yet. I have had a lot of hats in the technology space. 15, 20 years ago, working in network and IT support, mostly on the hardware side, switching over into software. I grew up in the DC area. I live in Colorado now, but I've worked in the government space basically since I was a teenager, right? You're just exposed to it in that area. And in that time, I worked on everything from BMC Remedy implementation projects. I was a full stack .NET developer for a long time, a SharePoint developer and architect. As a hobby, developed video games. I've self-published and developed a game on the Nintendo 3DS and a couple other platforms. And about 8 years ago, I was working as a general software developer at a medium-sized government agency. And we were building out workflows and portals on other platforms. And ServiceNow became one of the tools that was added to our toolbox. And it only took me a day or two to realize that the projects that we used to build in months or even years, all of a sudden we could create those same workflows better, more effective, more integrated with our other systems in a matter of days. And I really switched gears at that point and went all in. And ever since then, I haven't really looked back. I've been all in on ServiceNow. Around 2019, I really focused on the certification game in ServiceNow, knocked out a whole bunch of CIS certs, and I've now been a certified technical architect for about the last year.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So that transitions nicely into your role at Booz Allen Hamilton. For our audience listening, everyone will know the name and the brand, but can you take us behind the scenes of the ServiceNow group at Booz Allen? Just set the stage, the depth and breadth of ServiceNow and its offerings, and maybe give some examples of the types of customers or projects that you're supporting, and then we'll jump into the crux of the day-to-day build.
I joined Booz Allen a little over 2.5 years ago. Prior to that, I'd worked at really big firms, small firms, medium-sized firms. I've really found a happy balance here at Booz Allen. In that 2.5 years, the ServiceNow practice and the amount of projects that we're supporting has absolutely exploded. And that's a good thing. It's expanded. I don't know the percentage increase that we have had, but the size of our ServiceNow practice has at least quadrupled, probably more. I personally am based out of our health practice. As Booz Allen, 99% of our business is in the federal government space. So by health, that's your various health agencies. I'll just not going to call out anything specific, but I work in that group mostly. So 75% of the clients that I support are very health focused. I also do a little bit of work in the Department of Defense space as well, but we have ServiceNow architects and developers and analysts, you name it, all across different government agencies. What I think is unique about Booz Allen is we've chosen to stay pretty close knit, even though that ServiceNow practice is based out of our health practice. And that's just how things organically developed. We keep in touch every single day with architects all across the firm. We've got a Teams chat that goes on all the time between our different CTAs and CMAs that are working in SCIFs or working all across the country. We're in all different time zones. We're constantly bouncing ideas off each other. If something new is coming out, that's our place to talk about it. And we have a big emphasis on ServiceNow certifications. So I know there's a lot of rules surrounding deploying ServiceNow. We take those very seriously. So if we're going to be deploying a new module, we want to make sure that it's not just the architects that have those certified implementation specialist certs. We want to make sure that the junior, the mid-level developers get those opportunities to get those certifications too. It's a great opportunity for them. It makes them more effective, and it lets us be more effective as an implementation partner. You'd also asked about what kinds of modules we're rolling out. I'm seeing across the federal government, we are in a really exciting time for ServiceNow. Most agencies have already rolled out ITSM, basic ITOM, and now they're looking to consolidate additional systems into ServiceNow that they've already rolled out at ITSM. So for years, it felt like we were doing the same kinds of projects over and over again: incident, problem change, requests, portals, all that stuff. And yeah, that stuff's great, but we're seeing a lot more customer service management. We're seeing a lot more SecOps, workplace service delivery, HRSD, you name it. I would say there's two large agencies that I support as close to 80% of my day-to-day job. And if you were to look at that classic image of the ServiceNow football that kind of shows all the different modules and products, those two agencies, between the two of them, are rolling out every single one of those modules. So every single day it gets to be a little bit different, working on all these different modules across the board. And what I love about the role that I have at Booz Allen is, yes, I am from a leadership side on the ServiceNow practice, but I'm still very much so in the trenches. I get to write a line of code, at least one every single day. And I think that's really important to make sure that our architects who are making these big architectural decisions and designing solutions for our clients are still in there every single day, actually building and working with our teams to roll out these products.
One of the things that I know you and I were speaking about previously, which I definitely want to touch on in this conversation, was you've got great visibility of the impact that ServiceNow can have across the public sector within health. Oftentimes, when we think of public sector institutions, one of the questions is, are they staying up to date on modern technology? And that has been challenging up until recent times because different platforms for different services, and ServiceNow is accelerating the digital transformation for the public sector. Can you speak to, from where you sit, whether it be DoD stuff or more heavily in the public sector in health, what are some of the things that you're seeing from a modernization of the technology stack? What are you excited about, and why is it so important for what ServiceNow is doing for these public health systems?
Just in the last couple of years, the government used to be N minus 2 or 3 years behind on whatever the technology was. So there's always this stereotype that working in the federal space meant that you were not working on the cutting edge. That just absolutely isn't true anymore. We have government agencies that are rolling out the new version of ServiceNow months after it comes out. That was not the case just a few years ago. So now with ServiceNow, we're absolutely on the cutting edge of all of these new technologies that are coming out, whether it's AI or IoT or IOMT. And that is really the space that I'm most excited about right now. In our hospitals, whether they are public or private, there's been an explosion of technology within those hospitals, network connected devices. Basically everything in the hospital can connect to the internet. And that makes it a cybersecurity vector. That makes it something that you could potentially automate. And that makes it a big threat to your organization if you don't have good control over that. So what we're seeing, especially in a lot of the federal health spaces right now, is working with integrating into systems that can discover those types of devices. Now, I'm not going to go super in depth here, but ServiceNow Discovery itself is not the best tool for discovering like a CAT scan machine or an X-ray machine. You have to be really careful with those devices. If you brick a dialysis machine on accident because of some network traffic, someone's unsafe in that situation. We got to avoid that at all costs. There's all these interesting tools out there now that are helping us discover those devices on network, whether it's passive network inspection or all different types of discovery tools. And we're seeing a huge investment within ServiceNow to build out service graph connectors to help us connect to those types of third-party alternative type of discovery tools. And what we're finding is all of a sudden the things that used to be reserved for just hardware, software, like printers, servers, end user desktops, we can now use the out-of-the-box ServiceNow supports, whether it's ITSM or CSM or ITOM, event management, vulnerability response. We can use those same types of technologies really close to out of the box on very specialized systems. And I think that's the direction, especially in healthcare, in the government space, anywhere where we're working with really specialized proprietary type technology, we're going to see an increase in ITIL type support on very non-IT type of devices. And that's really exciting. And just a couple of years ago, we were just talking about what that might look like. We have a lab within Booz Allen where we were actually working with ServiceNow in prototyping with actual healthcare medical devices to demonstrate that, yes, in fact, we can integrate with these tools. We can use ServiceNow with very minimal customization to unlock the types of capabilities that used to be reserved for only IT devices in our medical devices. And just in a couple of years, that's now a real thing. We're starting to actually implement those types of solutions with our customers in the federal space. And I think that's really exciting. I think really in that space, the federal government is in some ways ahead of the private sector there.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
One of the biggest challenges within ServiceNow is the bottleneck around talent, because there's such a demand, such a lack of supply that we need to encourage more people to look at it and get involved. And that's only amplified when you take into account some of the employment restrictions around the public sector, whether it be a security clearance and so on. But the opportunity is massive. So on that topic, you mentioned in the introduction of Booz Allen the growth and investment in ServiceNow over the last few years, quadrupling in size. As somebody now who's positioned at a senior level within the ServiceNow org, you've got great visibility around the continued investment, the growth, the opportunity. So when you look at the near-term roadmap, particularly the next 18 months to 2 years, what are some of the standout milestones that you see you guys working towards? What continued growth are you expecting to see? And speaking to an audience of ServiceNow professionals, what opportunities do you see for people who are liking what they're hearing, have an interest in continuing to advance their career, and want to do it in an organization that's investing heavily in ServiceNow?
It's not just Booz Allen investing heavily in ServiceNow. We're also seeing the federal government investing heavily in ServiceNow, which, like you said, there's already a bottleneck. You put in the clearances and some of the geographical restrictions on some of these projects, and yeah, it's really tough. What I'm finding on the roadmap, there's nothing not on the roadmap. Everything from the most advanced AI capabilities that we're hearing about in the new releases of ServiceNow, to every module that you can get a ServiceNow certification in, we are seeing work come out to support those capabilities. And yeah, there's a huge restriction. What Booz Allen's strategy has been, in a lot of ways, is to take industry experts. There's a ton of veterans on our team that have entire careers working in areas that, like me as a pure technologist, I can't bring that understanding that they can. But we can help quickly train up and put retired veterans in positions where they can learn ServiceNow, learn those skills really fast, and then bring their decades-long experience to those clients and really make a difference.
As somebody who's worked in different organizations, you mentioned, look, small, medium, large, on different technology stacks, speaking to an audience of potential future colleagues and employees, I know you play a part in the hiring process and interviewing. So when you're speaking to people, who you feel can add value to the Booz Allen team. What do you tell them about Booz Allen, the ServiceNow team, that gets them excited enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies also trying to hire?
I typically am involved in interviewing more senior architect level folks. And the things that we're really looking for in that case is I want to understand how you go about figuring out how to solve a problem. I'm not necessarily going to ask you to write me a line of code, right? All of that is very important, but I really want to make sure to understand your problem solving and how you get to a solution with really vague information, because those are the types of problems that we're going to have to solve every single day. As far as building up people, we do directly interview or directly hire senior level, mid-level, junior level, and CMAs and CTAs all the time, but we're constantly bringing up our own people. I would love for everybody on my team to go get all the certifications they possibly can, go get the CTA, go get the CMA, be the best ServiceNow architect you can possibly be. Now, that's mostly just talking about hiring, but working in the government space, I think there's a lot of people that are probably on the fence of working in the federal space, because let's face it, no matter what your political leanings and beliefs are, it's super trendy right now to be upset with your government. And I get it. I catch every punk rock show that comes through Colorado. I grew up in that world. I get it. But I think ultimately all of that energy is just coming from wanting to make your government better. And that's what we get to do every single day here at Booz Allen. Every day in small, medium, and big ways, we get to help government agencies be more effective and efficient in the services that they provide. We get to directly help people that keep us safe and protect our country. And anything we can do to make their lives safer and easier day to day really matters. We don't traditionally look at management and technology consulting as a way to serve your country, but that's how I look at it. And that's bigger than a paycheck. That's bigger than just putting in hours at some company. Every single day, we get to help make our government a little bit better. And that's what gets us out of bed every morning.
Julian, what a great way to end an incredible interview. Thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us, my friend. I know we've been planning this one for a while. It's great to get a summary of your own background and journey, having worked in so many different technology fields. But here you are now leading the charge with ServiceNow at Booz Allen. And you guys are doing incredible things in the public sector space, not just in health, but across the board in all areas. And it's going to continue. Obviously, it feels like as much momentum's being built within ServiceNow in the government and public sector space, there's a lot more to come. Great to get some insight of the team at Booz Allen, a look behind the scenes, and we wish you, the team, and everyone at Booz Allen the best of luck in the months and years to come. And look forward to having you back on the show again in maybe the next year or two, hear how things have developed.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.